Today I want to show you how you make something that's two-dimensional look three-dimensional. And we're going to use the base shape of a circle. And actually, I have this on a card also, if you're wondering why it's folded a little bit. I've been trying to do things on cards lately. I think they're a good size to practice on. You can just take a little piece of paper if you want. This is 140-pound Arches cold press. If you've been doing some of the videos, it's the same paper that I've been using for a little bit. So doesn't have to be perfect, but make a circle about 3/4 of the way. I actually want to have a little bit more opening than this. This is my white plastic eraser, so I don't have a bunch of smudges. And just take that one line in, take another line out, and we're left with this kind of pie shape. We're actually going to take a second and pull this one out a little bit, and pull this around. There we go. We'll give a nice little 3D effect in a minute. There, I think that's a good enough size for you guys to see. And we're going to do an eye. You'll notice the next few demos I do will be some 80s and 90s throwbacks. Thought we could do some fun stuff while learning the basics. Some pellets in. And we'll show a little bit of transparency also. Actually, I think I'm gonna change the angle a little bit. There we go. So let's start out with this. And again, it's just 3/4 of a circle, and then you're making a bent line here and a straighter line here. Do you have to add the little pellets? No. Actually, I don't know if they're called pellets. Okay. I'm going to be using a number 2 flat brush. And my brush strokes, remember I always tint my water a little bit so you can see it. Yours is going to be clear. My brush strokes are going to be following the form. So see this curve over here? My brush strokes are going in the same kind of a curve. And then downward. I'm covering everything but the inside and the eyes. Okay, and I want to make sure also I don't touch any of the outer elements yet. So we are going to start with, if you haven't guessed it yet, yellow. This is cadmium yellow. It might be called medium yellow in your set. Not lemon yellow, will not give you the right effect. Now by making it darker on the edge and lighter towards the center, it's going to give a nice three-dimensional sphere effect. And that's what we're going for today. And as of now, we're just using the one color. And I'm just putting a light amount on, other than those little bent areas. I have some more. I'm gonna even add a little bit more down here. Now I'm going to take my baby brush, size 0. There are smaller brushes, by the way, but we're not going to need those today. Okay, now while this is wet, I want to incorporate another color. So why not make it a little bit more interesting, right? You can keep it like this if you like it like this, and we'll just add more of that yellow in and darken some areas, but I want to put a little bit of the quinacridone gold in. If you've done some of the demos, you'll notice it on other paintings. It has a nice feel when you're trying to make something three-dimensional because it has such a nice color shift to it. Okay, so we're going to leave that like that for now. Okay. So while that is drying, I'm going to mix up some indigo blue and dioxazine purple. And put it on very thick in this area. And you notice I already have it bleeding in one section. I would highly recommend that when you're doing this, you wait a few minutes. It's only bleeding because that water's there and it's wet. But I don't want to make a super long video because I want you to be able to watch the whole thing and do it. So feel free to pause and then continue as needed. If you did do the little pellets or food or whatever it's called, you want to make sure that you have the pellet over his actual mouth. That's going to help it look more three-dimensional too. Little hints like that really help. Really help make things more believable to a person's eye. You can also make yours much bigger so you don't have to use a tiny brush. Ooh, I did it again. So you don't have to use a tiny brush. And you won't have nearly the difficult time I'm having keeping that paint where it's supposed to stay. Okay. So we're going to let that part dry. I'm going to see if I can pull some of this out. Sometimes you can get it early enough and there's not so much water on there that it matters, and you can clean it up pretty good. And if you can't, that's okay, you can fix it later. Okay, so these little things, we're just going to put a touch of color in because they're actually, I believe they're white. It's been a while. So we're just going to put a little more shadow in than color. Okay. I'm just bouncing between the two brushes. We're going to add more detail later, but hopefully you can see where this is going. Okay, it's dried a couple minutes. not too long. And again, you can run a hair dryer over it very lightly, and as long as you don't have a bunch of paint on there, it'll help dry it. If you have really soupy paint though, it's going to splash it around. And if you hold it there a couple seconds too long, it's going to probably catch on fire, so be really careful if you do that. There's a couple techniques that are wonderful with the hairdryer that I'll show you one day. But for today, you can just use a little bit of patience. So I want to highlight a few areas and darken a few areas to help create that 3D feel. So we want to make, like you said, right under his mouth a little darker. Make this area a little bit darker too. What I'm using right now is that quinacridone gold, because it still has a nice yellowness to it. But when I spread it out, it shifts color. So put some on the edge. Take my other brush. And I'm going to make sure I get rid of this pencil marking. Oh man. See, that's why you don't erase after. But we'll clean it up. So I'm taking a really wet brush and I'm just kind of smudging it, wiping it off. That's why I like this particular paper, because I can wipe it off pretty well without it starting to fall apart. You'll find 90-pound papers, which they're totally fine. They're just, in instances like this, they're a little bit harder to use. Okay. Okay. I'm cleaning up what I can around the eyes by adding more cadmium yellow. Remember, when we're doing this kind of detail, we're putting it on fairly heavy because we want control and we don't want it to go everywhere. And then just put it on the other side too. So this is the blue, the indigo blue I put over there. Sometimes I do no background at all, but it feels like he needs a little bit of something. Okay, so we're gonna let him dry again. And then you can pick whatever color you want to pick, whatever your favorite color is. Make sure you do at least one eye. If you're doing the fire engine red one, it's going to be your cadmium red. If you're going to do one that's the pinker one, you can use any of the pinks you've used before, so alizarin crimson. Actually, you know what? I am going to do the pink one because I have it out on my palette from when we just used it. So I want to keep the ghost pretty transparent. So actually, I'm going to get this off my brush. Make sure my brush is nice and clean. And I'm going to put water down first. Get this little guy out of there. Okay. Remember, the paint's going to kind of go outward from wherever you put the water. So I want to make sure I have more of a shadow at the bottom and on the edges. And then I should probably put that eye in so that I know how to go around it. Make sure you leave a little white space for a highlight. Okay, and you can even take some of that blue and hit a little bit of the shadowy edge. I'm just going to put a little more paint in a couple areas so he doesn't look so flat. Remember, we're trying to make two-dimensional objects look more 3D, right? So by adding these folds, we can do that. And again, I'm just incorporating a little bit of color. Do you have to? No. I just kind of wanted to. If you're going to, just be pretty careful you don't accidentally hit your characters. Now that our ghost is a little dry, go back in one more time with a slightly darker blue. Yeah. One of the most common things to do, not even just for beginners, but everybody, is to accidentally put a halo around the object, meaning your background color doesn't touch your object. You kind of need it to. So wait till it's pretty dry, then be brave and be careful. Okay. I think we got all the edges. Okay. We just made a card showing an epic battle. And more importantly, how to make a circle look more three-dimensional, and how to make a shape that's flat look more three-dimensional just by adding some shadows. Could we take this further? Oh, absolutely. Are we going to today? Nope. Next demo, maybe. Right there. Another trick is knowing when you're done. There's a little bit of luck with watercolor, so don't test it too often if you have what you like. And I kind of like this, it's cute. So good job, and it's great to practice with this kind of stuff. I recommend anything nostalgic. Like I said, that's going to be the theme for the next few demos. Oh, I didn't see this bleeding through. There, better. Okay, I'm just gonna pull that out a little bit, and it's good to look at it a few minutes after because some of that paint takes a minute to move. I hadn't seen that pink. Okay, so really good job.